Welcome back to the BodyMaitre Podcast. I'm your host, Derek. Today, we are going to step into a territory that is often misunderstood, sometimes feared, but absolutely vital for our spiritual hygiene. We are talking about the Discarnates Program in Spiritual Response Therapy, or SRT. Have you ever had moments where you just didn't feel like yourself? Or perhaps you felt a sudden wave of heavy emotion, a craving or a thought pattern that felt foreign, like it didn't belong to you? In our work with energy, we often find that these aren't just random fluctuations. Sometimes they are the result of unseen guests in our energy field. Today, I want to share a specific case study. Let's call him Alan. Through his story, I'm going to show you how we use SRT to identify these energies, and then use the BodyMaitre system to understand the why and the how behind them. Before we get to Alan, we need to understand what a discarnate actually is. In SRT, a discarnate is simply a soul who has left the physical body through death but hasn't moved on to the light. They remain earthbound. Why do they stay? It could be fear of judgment, a desire for revenge, or deep attachments to earthly things like relationships or addictions. They don't have a physical body anymore, but they still have cravings. So they look for a host, they look for a living person with a vibration that matches their own frequency, so they can attach and feed off that energy. And this brings us to a case. Let's us call him Alan. He came to me for a session feeling drained. He was experiencing mood swings and a heaviness he couldn't shake. When we opened his charts using spiritual response therapy, the pendulum immediately indicated a Discarnates Program. Now, knowing there is a discarnate is the first step. For true healing and understanding, we want to know the story. We want to know why Alan, why now, and what is this entity doing there. This is where we bring in the BodyMaitre system to expand our research across the four bodies. We asked Spirit two crucial questions. What caused Alan to attract this energy? And what is the specific energy of the discarnate itself? Let's look at what was happening in Alan's energy field. The research pointed us first to his physical body, showing the energy of too much going on at once. This wasn't just busyness. This was systemic overwhelm. His nervous system was fried, and his physical vitality was low. Then we looked at the spiritual body. We found a specific timeline, age 41 to 50. The energy was clear challenges and trauma. During this decade of his life, Alan faced a series of emotional blows that he hadn't fully processed. This trauma created what BodyMaitre calls a space opening in his spiritual body. Think of your aura like a spacesuit. When you are vibrant and healthy, the suit is sealed. But when you go through trauma, grief, or shock, and your vibration drops, that suit gets a tear. That space opening was the invitation. So, who stepped into this open space? We researched the energy of the discarnate to understand what it was bringing into Alan's life. We found that the entity, when he was alive, struggled with drug abuse. This showed up in the mental body research. This explains why Alan might have been feeling addictive tendencies or erratic thoughts that weren't his own. But it goes deeper. In the physical body of the discarnate, we found the energy of deep sorrow and no sweetness left. This entity passed away in a state of absolute despair, feeling that life had lost all its joy. Finally, in the spiritual body, we found psychic hooks. This is how the attachment happened. The discarnate didn't just float by, it hooked into Alan because there was a vibrational match. Here is the full picture. Alan was going through the lowest tide of his life between the ages of 41 and 50. He was overwhelmed, traumatized, and his aura was porous. He was vibrating at the frequency of pain. At that exact moment, a wandering soul, a former addict who died in deep sorrow, saw Alan's light. But because Alan was in pain, that light was dim enough for this entity to tolerate. The entity saw Alan's sorrow and said, "I know that feeling." It hooked in. This wasn't a malicious attack in the way movies portray it. It was a resonance of pain. The entity was feeding off Alan's sorrow, and in return, it was projecting its own addiction and hopelessness back into Alan. It was a feedback loop of misery. Once we understood this story, we asked Spirit, is this research sufficient for clearing? The pendulum swung to 100%. We didn't need to fear the entity. We didn't need to fight it. We simply asked High Self to clear the psychic hooks, to heal the space opening in Alan's spiritual body, and to help that lost soul release its sorrow and move into the light. For Alan, the shift was immediate. The deep sorrow that wasn't his was lifted. So if you are watching this and you relate to Alan's story, here is the takeaway. We are energetic beings. When we hold on to trauma, when we let ourselves get physically depleted, or when we stay in states of grief for too long, our vibration drops. We literally lose our energetic immunity. This case shows us that possession or attachment isn't about evil, it's about resonance. By clearing these programs, we don't just kick out a guest, we heal the wound in you that invited them in the first place. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the 4 bodies. If you feel heavy, remember, it might not all be you, but you have the power to clear it. I'll see you in the next episode.